Yeah, I'll show you how to get it, but you have to be willing to do the work. The Syndicate, it's a motherfucking movement.
You ain't gotta be perfect, long as you down to put the work in. If when it comes to the bullshit you allergic, well, you just might be my kind of person. Welcome to the Syndicate, where real estate wholesaling is what the business is. Ain't gotta talk about it when you out here living it, so if you out here getting it, then welcome to the Syndicate. Well, welcome to the Syndicate. Well, welcome to the Syndicate.
Episode of the Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate podcast. Very excited to bring the guest we have with us today. We have Robert Elder with us. Robert, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the invite. Always happy to share.
Of course, yeah. Definitely happy to have you on and talk about some stuff with the NAR settlement. But before we kind of get into that, can you just kind of give us a quick background and introduction on who Robert is for people who might not know yet?
Yeah, so I'm a second generation agent, got my license 33 years ago, been very, very active in the real estate community. Stephanie and I run the RoPax Group, consistently rank in the top 1% of all the agents here in San Antonio. We are very listing heavy agents. Of course, we deal with buyers and whatnot, and I know that's what we're going to be talking about today, but we're definitely very listing heavy agents. During the height of COVID, we were selling 3 houses a week. We have a very different perspective on the market because we have such a strong pulse on the market and with what's going on, more so than the average agent. So super excited to talk about this topic. I've got my own opinions and put together some notes, and happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
For sure. Yeah, appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll make sure to get them answered for you. But yeah, I think that's a great point. And I'm really excited to talk with you too, with all your experience. What do you do? Because I know you mentioned you really you really do keep a finger on the pulse and stay up to date. How do you stay up to date, and how would you recommend other people if they want to get more informed and stay up to date with what's going on?
Well, of course, staying connected with TREC and Texas Association of Realtors. And what I mean by my comment is also the pulse on the market. Just because of the amount of transactions we do, we definitely see trends quicker than others. We see where things speed up or slow down. Various areas might be reacting to rates, because currently rates are a big deal right now, hovering around 7.5%, if not a little bit more. Certain areas might see that movement hit sooner or later. So because we have properties all over San Antonio, even a little bit outside of San Antonio, we see it. I mean, it's just kind of like almost like X-ray vision, if you will.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense for sure. So awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into it. And I know the topic we're going over, it's something that's all over the news and social media, and you're seeing it everywhere, but it feels like everyone kind of has different things. And a lot of people, myself included, don't really know what it is or how it's going to affect things. So if you could just start from the beginning, can you explain, how it started and what the NAR settlement is?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a money grab for attorneys. That's really what it boiled down to be. So like any typical class action type lawsuit, whether it was tobacco or mold remediation. I remember years ago I was part of a big mold lawsuit. It's like, you never hear anything about mold lawsuits anymore. They pretty much don't exist. Attorneys saw an opportunity to cash in, which is what they've done. Now, they haven't collected yet. That's the funny thing. But they saw this particular situation to go ahead and get together a group of sellers that felt that they were not aware of exactly who or how they were paying commissions, and banded together to create these lawsuits that were going on for several years up until the recent settlement that NAR did.
That makes sense for sure. So what exactly happened with the settlement, and how do you see it making affecting the market or any changes?
Well, the funny thing, the settlement still needs to be signed off on by the judge.
Really? Okay.
Which, I would probably guess it's going to be signed off on. I'm not going to say that it's not going to be signed off on. I would think that it would be. I mean, the weirder things have happened, and maybe the judge will realize that this is not in the best situation for clients and costs and everything else. I mean, I've got some notes that discuss what they tried to say, the benefits to buyers and sellers and the market. The funny thing is, it's like we as agents, we don't control the market. Buyers and sellers control the market. We facilitate the process.
Right.
Ultimately, when you're in the business, does your agent tell you, hey, we need to sell it this? No, they suggest something, but it's your asset. You can do with it what you wish. And that's one of the funny things and one of the bullet points that we'll talk about. But, the big thing that they kept on saying was that this change was going to make it, one, more economical for the buyers to do that, and two, bring down pricing. How is it going to bring down pricing? Because as of this morning, that's the funny thing that also I want to talk about. Now they're talking about changing loan structures to include buyer's agent compensation. Why? Because no sellers immediately are going to say, okay, fine, I'm going to knock off 3% of this price or 2.5% or 2% or whatever it is, because now that this doesn't exist, I don't have to pay the person. No. Where do you think it's going to go? Straight into the pocket of the seller. Because again, we as agents don't control this.
Right.
We don't make the market.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, I know there's so many different things. It's almost hard to know what's what. What are some of the common misconceptions you've seen, or what are some of the different things you've seen people talk about?
Well, I mean, one of the big common misconceptions is the fact that it's, going to make it cheaper for sellers to sell. I mean, yeah, if they don't have to pay it, it's cheaper to a degree, but it doesn't mean that the buyers, which was supposedly the class they were trying to help the most, it was going to make it more advantageous and more of an even playing field for buyers to go in there. Hey, buyers are coming up with their own closing costs. They're coming up with their own down payments. They're paying for their inspections. They're paying for their appraisals. The buyer has their own gigantic set of expenses as well, just like sellers do. So, can buyers come up with even more money to pay, 2, 3, whatever percent to a buyer's agent? Probably not. I mean, I funny thing is, I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think there's going to be other companies that might come into existence because of this. Perhaps finance companies that you can finance your buyer's agent or something like that. At the end of the day, the only thing that changed was in the MLSs, we're not, when it does go into effect, because it's not in effect right now, we're not able to promote a compensation that our seller is willing to pay. Does that make sense? In an MLS, they'll be like, there's a little number.
Yeah, they'll say.
When we see that as a buyer's agent, if I represent a buyer, we'll say, okay, 123 Main Street is willing to pay 2.5%, 3% commission for the buyer's agent.
Right.
That blank is going to go away. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that on every other platform, Zillow, Trulia, whatever, ABC Realty website, they'll be able to show what the seller's willing to pay, but the MLS will not if that goes into effect.
Okay.
It doesn't change anything because you'll be able to see it on every other platform out there. That's the weird thing.
Right.
Yeah. So here's a couple of things, and you can ask questions as I talk about it. So one misconception was the settlement forces brokers to reduce their compensation. No, I mean, it doesn't force. Compensation is always negotiable, always has been negotiable. Nothing has ever changed. What one agent wants to charge is their business. What I want to charge, that's my business. How they want to run their business is lean and mean, that's on them. And I run mine differently. Totally cool. The settlement in no way establishes a standard or limitation on realtors for what they may charge, nor services they elect to deliver. Those fees have always been negotiable, and there's never been any collective bargaining in any market. There's a wide variety of fees. Heck, there's half price real estate in this city.
Right.
Someone, if they want to use them or not. So that's definitely that's a misconception. This is another one. The settlement will, for the first time, allow sellers to no longer pay compensation for an agent bringing the buyer. That's false also. There has never been an obligation for a seller to pay a buyer's agent compensation, yet it has always been a practice that has worked out well for decades upon decades, by the way. A past ruling required an offer of some amount of compensation, was a rule of display on a realtor-owned MLS, yet it could have been as low as $1. That limitation was removed, and today the MLS accepts all listings regardless of buyer's agent consideration. So they have made some changes to it. One of the conversations that I was having with a client recently was, just imagine if you have a home to sell and you need to move your family to wherever, Colorado, New York, wherever you want to pick. And if you're in competition in your particular neighborhood with your builder, many of those builders right now are offering 3, 4, 5, 6% buyer's agent compensation.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Seller, where do you think you're going to fall in there? You're not going to be as competitive because an agent's going to say, well, Mr. Buyer, you can look at 123 Main Street, but on this one, you're going to have to pay the compensation for the buyer's agent, or there's 22 other homes here that we can entertain as well that you won't have to pay that. The seller's willing to, to forego making the buyer pay for that. Where do you think they're going to want to look? Well, gosh, I'm already putting 20% down. I have this, that, X. You know what? Let's go entertain these over here.
Right.
I've had this conversation with, we carry anywhere from 30 to 40 listings at any one given time. Not one of our sellers had said, no, I don't want to pay. No, they just say, once I explain it to them, they're like, okay, that's fine. I understand it now. We're going to continue to go status quo. Here's another one, number 3. The settlement prohibits sellers from paying a commission to a buyer's agent and relieves the sellers of the financial burden. That's also false. The mandate restricts properties with an offer of buyer agent compensation from displaying on association-owned MLSs, yet the practice can't be restricted in any other form of marketing. That's where I go to all the other websites can show clearly what a seller's willing to pay. Sellers may still elect to pay buyer's agent compensation to differentiate their properties. While sellers can elect not to pay a buyer's agent compensation, that doesn't mean that they will avoid the economics, as buyers may write into an offer a contingency requiring the seller to cover the cost or request other concessions. So right now, lenders are huddling around the campfires to discuss, because of course there's limits, there's percentage limits that people can get from the seller contributing towards their closing costs and everything. Now they're looking to manipulate all of those things so they can roll that into it. Never is it talking about reduction of price. In my humble opinion of 33 years of being in the business, I truly feel this is going to actually increase pricing.
Right.
You really think about the economics, because again, we don't control it as agents. The buyers and sellers control the market. If the seller's like, hey, screw you, I want my, full $300,000 sale price, and that was the same price that they were asking for before all of this happened, where does the money come from? It's going to come from the buyer. They'll probably get rolled into a loan or something like that. So I don't know where this is becoming cheaper. Here's this, and it goes to this one, number 4. The settlement will serve to meaningfully lower prices and make home ownership affordable again. False. Values in real estate are determined by supply and demand. Fees in real estate transactions represent additional expenses, yet these include not only commissions, but many other related charges. Should a real estate commission be reduced by 1% of compensation, that $500,000 home will now cost $495,000. Not only is the potential impact marginal at best, but do you think the seller now believes the home is worth less and will happily give the difference to the buyer? No,
of course not.
So it's funny. It's almost like I don't feel that a lot of this was thought through from a logical perspective. I go back to, I'll just share my opinion. I feel it was a money grab. They saw an opportunity, and it was a money grab. I've got 2 more things that we could talk about here. The settlement is a win for buyers who will now be able to negotiate the fee for representation. That's questionable, in my opinion. When you've purchased a home, and it's funny, Stephanie and I have gone down a rabbit hole watching Buying Beverly Hills. I don't know if you've seen that Mauricio show.
I haven't, no.
On Netflix. They have senior agents and then they have junior agents. And I was like, wow, that's actually pretty cool, because I know I would be considered a senior agent with my tenure in the business, but someone that just got their license this morning, to the general public, they see us as equal.
They're the same, yeah, right.
It's really weird, despite me having closed over 2,500 transactions and this person none in their mind, and that's just because of, I guess, maybe what the public perceives or something like that. They see us as equals when we don't have anything remotely near the same type of negotiating styles, experience, knowledge of the market. I mean, the list can go on almost ad infinitum. So I feel that is a very questionable comment, because if I were to get paid and compensated by a buyer, my fee would be very different from that of a brand new agent. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
The last one here, the settlement will result in a significant restitution to consumers who were harmed. That's an interesting word that they've always used over recent years in their transactions by realtors. False. The settlement is huge, but when one divides the amount by the number of potentially qualifying consumers, it works out to about $10 a person.
Yeah.
You're younger than me. I'm 53 years old. Do you remember that movie, The Jerk, with Steve Martin? Have you heard of that movie? So he's a guy that makes all this money with these really funky glasses, and then he gets involved in this class action lawsuit, loses everything. But at the end of the movie, he's writing $1.82 to each one of the victims.
Yeah.
And it made me think of this, because it's like, I think that these people thought they were going to be getting this gigantic windfall of cash from not knowing what they signed. It was, I'm sure, explained to them. And they're getting, a minuscule amount of the totality, yet they're disrupting an industry.
Right.
Been working so well for so many decades.
I guess that's the question I have is like, how are they harmed? Like, what's the reason behind it?
So some of the things, I haven't heard all of them. Some of them were, we don't know what we signed. We didn't know that we were having to pay the buyer's agent. We didn't know that we were having to compensate someone that was going to be negotiating against us. I mean, again, it's a laundry list of things that they were talking about. But at the end of the day, like this morning, I listed a property. This is older lady. She's 93 years old. It's her little townhome. It's a $200,000 property. It clearly states where and who is getting paid,
right,
and what that amount is. It's been in every one of my listing agreements from the beginning of time since I've been practicing. So
right, and then in closing, you see it all again.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's a pretty weak statement to say, well, I don't know. It was in black and white and you signed it. So you don't know, you don't pay attention to what you signed.
Right. And then in closing, they see it all again, and they literally have an impartial third party going through it line by line, answering any questions you have.
Yes, exactly. I guess you, as a seller, did you ever think it odd that you were paying a commission? And because at the end of the day, your contract is with your listing agent. It's up to your listing agent to decide how much of whatever that piece of the pie is. They want to give half of the pie, they want to give a quarter of the pie, they want to give all the pie, and they keep nothing for themselves. Hey, that's your business. But it's clearly stated in black and white how that pie is going to be cut up, whatever the dollar amount is.
Right. Yeah, definitely never something I thought of, or rarely. I definitely want to pay people what they're worth, and they're doing work, and I think they deserve to get paid. So I don't know.
Right.
So where do you think all the misconceptions are coming from? Because I feel like they're just all over the board, and are they just flat out making them up, or is it just coming from somewhere?
It's funny because when all of this started coming out, I mean, it's not been as heavily talked about as it was about a month ago. Like when this ruling just came out and the settlement came out, oh my gosh. Never in my life have I read so many comments geared towards my industry saying, we're overpaid, we're glorified door openers, we're paper pushers, my 5-year-old can do these contracts, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. And it's wild, man. Look, I know how I do what I do. And I've owned some other companies as well. So I can say I know how to run those types of businesses that were non-real estate related, but I don't know how to be a doctor. I don't know how to be an attorney for sure. I don't know how to be a CPA. I don't know how to be a mechanic. I don't know how to work on a Mercedes-Benz. That's a very specialized type of person, and they should be compensated for their worth. I would never attack that occupation when I know nothing of that occupation. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, of course. I wouldn't either. Yeah.
But it's wild how some people can freely attack an industry that they know nothing about.
Right.
And sure, there might be a very, very small percentage of people that were able to sell their house on their own. Great. You were able to sell it on your own. Not too long ago, there was a for sale by owner that we had the buyer on. We represented the buyer. The for sale by owner did pay us. But when they thought they were saving money, but when the appraisal came back at, I think it was almost 50,000 over where we were under contract, who do you think was happy? Our buyer. But a good agent would have known that that house was worth more. I knew that that house was so value priced when my client was saying, hey, well, let's offer less. I'm like, no, give them exactly what they want. I was like, you're already getting a deal.
Right.
On them. Hire the professional. Trust me, they're worth their weight in gold in whatever industry. Now, that being said, I will never not say that there's bad realtors out there. Of course, there's bad doctors out there. Look at Botched, that TV show Botched. There's bad mechanics out there. There's bad plumbers. There's bad electricians. Brother, they exist in every industry. It's not just real estate. But they were like focusing on that, hyper focusing on that,
Yeah, 100%. I think it kind of might go back to what you mentioned before, is the misconception that all realtors are the same, and they got a cousin or whatever that just finished and got their license, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's media or what, but I don't know why people just kind of group that.
I think the unfortunate truth, I feel a lot of it has been sensationalized by shows like $1 Million Listing. The shows like the one I'm watching. However, the funny thing is the show that I'm watching about the agency, it shows the dark, I don't want to say the darker side, that's not the right word, but the hard side.
Right.
When deals are falling apart, when agents are trying everything possible to keep deals together, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's the reality of it. Like Stephanie just closed on a deal that funded today. It was a near $1.4 million deal. That woman worked her ever-loving tail off. And it wasn't just her, it was the other agent as well. And had the buyer and seller been left to their own devices on this deal, it would have never even have gotten to escrow, much less closing, because there was so much emotion involved. There was egos. I mean, there was everything under the sun. And then there was issues with the file and the contract and the appraisals. I mean, if there was a file that ever had a hurdle thrown at it every single day, just about, it was one of these. Had two great, I don't even want to say good, had two great agents not been involved with it, it never would have transacted, never would have closed. So great agents are worth their weight in gold because they'll get you to the finish line, as I'm sure you've experienced with your dealings too. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, having the right people in your corner and dealing with the wrong people will just make the deal that much harder. And and it's never fun having to deal with ones when things keep popping up, and you just got to do whatever you can, roll up your sleeves and figure it out, because things happen. And then, especially, for me, I haven't been doing it nearly like anywhere close as long as you. So it's always still new stuff all the time. I'm like figuring it out and learning as we go. So it's it's fun. Yeah, definitely keeps on your toes.
In my opinion, I don't think it's going to change much in how we do our transactions or how real estate is transacted. I feel there's just going to be an additional step involved when that does happen. I don't think there's going to be any monumental shift or change. When you really think about it, commissions have always been negotiable. People have always been able to sell their own properties on their own. That's your God-given right. Go for it. No one ever forced you to use an agent. I mean, all of these things that they were pointing out, they've been able to do them forever. This is a really funny thing. So when the settlement happened and it was proposed by NAR, do you know that the attorneys went to the judge and petitioned, I don't know what the number is, but petitioned to be compensated more, basically more than what they had originally asked for. And one of their reasonings was, well, we didn't know if we were going to be working for free. What the hell does an agent do? Yeah. They work for free until they get paid. I mean, There's times where I've worked months on a transaction with no idea if I was getting paid for my time until finally I did. So when they said that, I thought it was almost comical because they said a couple of other examples. I can't remember exactly what they were, but that was a big one. And I was like, well, sounds like a realtor to me.
Right. That's super ironic. That's super funny. Yeah, I feel like buyer's agents, you have the hardest. Like, I mean, especially get someone that's not serious. I used to sell cars, and like we'd get people come on the lot all the time that were very serious and didn't want to test drive everything. And
right,
you'd spend days with them. But I can imagine being a real estate agent having to spend weeks or months with someone and showing them houses, and then like, I end up going with someone else. Or,
right.
I decide not to buy.
Well, the wild thing is, and because we've had lots of conversations about this, so it's like a doctor, for example. A doctor is on call for a certain amount of time, like maybe 1 weekend off, 3 weekends off, or 1 weekend on, or between a certain hour and a certain hour. Man, when you're in real estate, you're on 24/7. You don't get the vacation. When Stephanie and I go on vacations, even though we have a team here, we're still in the thick of everything. We're still in the middle of it because people hire us because of our experience. So while we might be unplugged a little bit, we still have our thumb on the pulse of each and every transaction and file that's going on. And if we have to get in the middle of negotiations, that's our thousands of hours of negotiations that we've been doing. Of course, we're going to fight for our clients. That's our experience. That's why they're hiring us to begin with. But we don't have that time off. We don't get to punch out at 5 o'clock. If we're getting a call, hell, I remember getting a call not too long ago of one of our listings burning down at 11 o'clock. Because our seller lives in a different state. I was having to haul ass to go to downtown because some homeless people lit up his damn house. So I had to sit there and meet with the fire department and all this other stuff and talk on his behalf. Did I get paid for that? No. The funny thing is, of course, the transaction never happened, but I still happily went on my seller's behalf because that's what he was hiring me for. I didn't make a nickel out of it, but that's what we do.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's definitely. Yeah, I feel like people definitely just are ignorant. I guess they don't feel like realtors work hard, I guess.
And that's fine. I mean, not everyone's going to be my client, and I'm totally cool with that. I'm great. You hire who you're comfortable with.
100%. So, how do you feel like? What should buyers, if someone's listening to this and they're a buyer's agent, what should they be aware of? Is there anything they should do to operate differently, or anything?
Yeah, I think what buyer's agents are going to have to do is show more of what their value is. And because I'm traditionally more of a listing agent, we have all of our value proposition and how we're able to transact for our sellers. And yes, we're starting to really effectively build one out for our buyer pool as well. But more often than not, when buyers come to us, they're typically referred to us, so they already know they're going to be taken care of, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel it's gonna hurt newer agents just because they're not going to really be able to have a huge value proposition to say, hey, this is why I'm worth what I'm worth, which then goes back to my comment of the junior agents versus the senior agents. Like, I am all about new people getting into this industry. I mean, this is why I do things like this. That way I can share experience, because at some point in time, I'm going to go the way of the dinosaur. So there needs to be some, hopefully, payback of sorts, if you will, or paying it forward of sorts. So if I can share information, experience, content, et cetera, with other agents that will stay in this industry and become a professional, awesome. I'm all for that. I think what they'll have to do is really put together and figure out what their value proposition is. And it could be a myriad of things. Like for us within our company, 47% of properties transact off market. That's huge. That's huge, especially considering the amount of homes that our company here at Phil Surrounding sells. That means we have access to homes before the public does, and we're able to share those homes with our other agents internally here in the office. Hey, that gives that buyer a distinct advantage and that agent a distinct advantage to transact together, because they have information and intel that the general public doesn't have.
Right.
Things like that, really.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any advice for any like new people that are just getting into it? And I feel like talked to a lot of realtors, or especially in wholesale, who do a lot of the same things, but they just get into it and then they're just kind of overwhelmed. Almost it's like shiny object syndrome with so many things. And
Gosh, yeah, shiny object syndrome is a big deal. I'll tell you what, man. People, I think, get into analysis paralysis. At the end of the day, you can learn every script or every neighborhood or every part of the contract, if you will. But if you're not out there putting yourself in front of people, having conversations about real estate, you're not going to learn. At the end of the day, I'm blessed to say that, hey, we're not saving lives. We're not performing brain surgery or open heart surgery. No one is going to die because of an error that we might have during a transaction. It might be a financial error or something like that, but we can live from those. They got to get in the middle of it, man. I mean, they got to put themselves out there. They've got to lead generate. That's one of the biggest misconceptions with this industry is people get into it and they just assume that their phone is going to ring off the hook. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You got to get out there, man. You got to get in the paint.
For sure. And I feel like a big thing too, I feel like especially kind of with the preconceptions or ideas people have about real estate agents is like you're an entrepreneur. You have to be an entrepreneur. You have to work for yourself. You have to make things happen.
Yep.
And I feel like most people are used to working. Same thing for people coming to wholesaling. They're used to like working a regular traditional 9-to-5 job where you get paid hourly, get paid weekly. But switching that all commission basis where you eat what you kill is it's a big shock for people. And I feel like they kind of get surprised by it at first.
It's funny. I have this thing when I used to teach the Ignite, which is the new agent classes over at KW. I have this mindset that I wake up unemployed every morning. It doesn't matter what I made yesterday, the day before that. It doesn't matter what's in my bank account. I wake up and I have to make my paycheck today. And how is that going to happen? It's getting in front of people. It's making phone calls. It's, interacting. It's calling past clients. It's maybe, hosting open houses, whatever. The list can go on. There's so many different ways to lead generate in this industry. There really, really are. But for me, that was a huge paradigm shift in my thinking because it's just like you are only as good as your last sale. That's it. After that, people forget about you. They don't care about the $5 million house that you sold. That was yesterday's news. And some of these people, agents, when I say people, some of these agents, they'll get their commission check and then they're like, oh man, I'm gonna kick back. I'm on easy street now. No. You've got to keep on grinding, baby, because anything that you don't do today starts showing up 90 days from now. So if you take a week off, which that's your right, you're going to feel it 90 days from now. You take a month off, you're going to feel it.
Yeah. I talk about that a lot. My mastermind, the syndicate, where like, it's really, if you look at your last 60, 90 days of activity, you're going to, that's your current situation is where you're at.
That's 100% correct. It is such a true statement that it might as well just be like a mathematical equation.
No, it really works like that too. But yeah, it's just because it happens when you get the deal and like you get paid in the one day, you get it all at once. It feels almost like you did it in that one day. Like it's like, oh, that was just one day of work, and you're like,
right,
this is great. And then a lot of people are like, it's like burning a hole in their pocket, and they just spend it like super fast and just find a way to spend it all. So it's. Do you have like anything you do or any recommendations you have for people like when you get a big paycheck all at once? Like how do you have like?
And I have so many different bank accounts. Try and keep it as far away as possible. I mean, because it's so easy. We're blessed that we are in an industry where there is no ceiling to income. It's as much or as little as you want to work. And the funny thing is my work ethic, I don't expect someone else to have my work ethic. Stephanie doesn't expect someone to have her work ethic. If you want to sell 2 or 3 houses a year, awesome. Go for it. If that's what makes you happy. If you want to sell, 2 houses a month, awesome. If you want to sell 3 a week, giddy up. It's whatever you want to do. But I would say, investing in your skill set is huge. There was one year, I think we spent close to $60,000 in education. Even to this day, we're still constantly pouring into ourselves, but that's, I don't want to say it's an expense, it's an investment. And I know you do things like that too. I mean, all of that, when you're pouring into yourself, you're giving yourself skills that no one can ever, ever, ever take away from you. When I had my fall from grace coming back out of Houston after losing pretty much everything on a failed business venture, no one could take away what was up here.
Right.
All of the knowledge that I had given myself over the years in sales training and real estate and everything else, I came back down here to San Antonio and I immediately started crushing it. So people, I think they get those checks and they buy the fancy cars and they buy the nice belt and then they think they're like Bernie badasses, and their skill set is this.
Right.
And you come up against a seasoned agent, and there are some amazing agents in this city. You go up against a seasoned agent, I'm sorry, they'll chop you up like a Ginsu knife. I mean, it's as easy as that.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I think it's something a lot of people overlook is, just keep investing. I like to call it like a white belt mentality, like just same thing, start every day, just trying to get 1% better and just learn a little bit more.
100%.
But so what do you guys do as far as building your teams? I know you guys crush it in town. Like, what do you do? Like when you bring people in, do you have like a process? Like, that's something I've struggled with personally is just finding the right people or.
Well, Stephanie's real good at interviewing, and it's a multi interview process. We are a tiny team. There's 4 of us. Mm-hmm. We will never be a gigantic team of 10, 15, 20, whatever agents. We're very skilled at what we do. We deal in particular areas and particular price points. We deal with particular marketing. But at the end of the day, what we're really, really big on here is a unity within our group, a cohesiveness within our group, because one bad apple can absolutely ruin the energy and the synergy in a team. It doesn't matter if it's what we do for a living, what you do for a living, or back when I used to own a garbage company, a partner in a garbage company. You have one bad salesperson will just crush it for everyone else. So we're very particular that Stephanie will do an interview. I'll do an interview. We'll do an interview together. And then we actually have one of our team persons who, Carla, she basically runs, she's our chaos coordinator. She gets to interview separately. And that way we have a multitude of opinions because we all have, different gauges of things that we might pick up on. Mm-hmm. And we respect what everyone else's opinion is of whoever we're bringing on. Most recently, we brought on someone that was with us before for about 4 years, and it was just phenomenal chemistry that we had with this person, and it was like a no-brainer. It was like, oh, you want to come back? Let's do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think that's great advice, just having different people talk to them, because then it's so easy to get like, oh, this person wants to work. I'm looking to hire someone. It's going to take something off my plate, and you just get overly excited and emotional.
Well, it's much like dating. I mean, so you have to think about, when you start dating someone, they always say it's their representative is the person that's there right now, not their true self. Does that make sense?
Right.
It's the same with the interviewing. You do one interview, well, guess what? They could have knocked it out of the park, but it's like you want to do a multitude of interviews to see how that person really, really can withstand the process on different days, say the same thing, interview with different personality types, et cetera, et cetera. Makes it fun and interesting.
Yeah, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. So any other advice that you have for people or thoughts you have just for mistakes people make?
I would say don't let all the rhetoric of this NAR thing, scare you away. Of course, a lot of people, hey, when your industry, when your livelihood is threatened to the magnitude and the manner in which it was, of course it's going to scare you. I mean, it's okay to be scared and concerned about what's going on with the industry. I truthfully feel that this is going to level up the industry. I feel that those agents who are licensed and want to do this part-time are going to hopefully go away, because I don't believe in the part-time agent. This is not a part-time business. I'm very passionate about real estate. I'm very passionate about our clients and what we do. And I'm passionate about the industry and the level of respect and the reputation that we have. I don't like it when I see people, I don't want to say, I'll say it. I don't want to say it, but this is really what I feel, disrespecting our industry. I don't like that, because why do you want to give people that already don't disrespect our industry any additional ammunition to say, see, look what they're doing. They're just idiots. They're being a moron on video or something like that. It's like, man, this is an industry that we can help change the lives through ownership and investment of property, building net worth, changing family dynamics, giving people a home. The list can go on and on and on. I don't do this for the money. I get compensated for what I do because of my passion for this industry. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I think everyone, I think you get, I think it's a weird thing people have about money or thoughts about money is if you get compensated directly in comparison to the amount of value you bring. I feel like you bring a lot of value. You deserve to be compensated.
There you go. 100%.
But I love that, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I know I've got a bunch of value. I'm sure everybody else did as well. What's the best way for people to connect with you, Robert, or follow you on social media or online?
Sure. So our Instagram is at the RoPax Group. That's our business. My personal is at Robert Elder Luxury Realtor. That's my personal Instagram. My Facebook is maxed out. You can follow me on Facebook. I've got thousands of people that follow me on my personal Facebook. I'm raw. I'm pretty unedited. I love to share my wins. I love to share my losses as well. I hope to be a beacon of light and hope for people that are out there struggling. I'm a recovering alcoholic and over 7 years sober. And I love to share my story because this is an industry that a lot of people struggle with substance abuse in this industry because of the stress of this industry. So I love to be that person that is transparent of my past struggles. That way I can hopefully help someone that might, be struggling out there. Cause this is not about the money. This is not about anything, man. We just got to be good human beings with each other and help each other succeed in this crazy world we live in.
100%. I love that. Well, definitely go give Robert a follow. That's awesome. And congrats on being sober for that long. That's really cool. And I'm sure you inspire more people than you know with that.
I hope.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone.
Hey, this is Ky Logue. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I truly appreciate you. If you want more of this information and you want to see these actually recorded live, go ahead and join our Facebook group. It's the Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate. It's right on Facebook. Google it, you'll find it. Type it on Facebook, you'll find it. I look forward to seeing you guys in there. We give a ton of free information in there, a bunch of free trainings, free courses. You get all the scripts, contracts, everything you need, A to Z, absolutely free. And I look forward to seeing you on the group.